Hi, welcome to this part of my review featuring Sword of Honor, Ronin. If you haven't seen part 1 of this review, featuring this solo RPG, where you play as a masterless warrior in search of justice, honor, and vengeance, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about locations and the way. But before that, I would like to talk about this channel's sponsor, Heroes and Hardships. This is a universal RPG system, allowing you to play any sort of campaign, adventure, scenario. You can create any sort of character imaginable. You have hundreds of tools to accomplish that. I'm going to put a few links in the description that will take you to the Kickstarter that is ongoing and it is in its stretch goals. You will also find links to the website, to the Discord, to the Tetsubo section of the website. Tetsubo is an upcoming setting inspired by Japan's Sengoku era. You will also find links to my reviews of the core rulebook in its early access version, the Quickstart guide, and the Wallace campaign setting, based on the life and exploits of William Wallace, so please check it out. Now let's continue. When it comes to locations, the terrain or encounter generation table details areas where your character will be traveling and how you generate the maps. Each of the areas also corresponds to an encounter table. They are divided into Overland and Underworld. I forgot to mention that the designer of the game recently uploaded a corrected version, that is, the typos that I mentioned in part 1 have been fixed. So that's great. Now let's continue with the Overland type of terrain. You can generate all sorts of things such as straight roads, crossroads, roads that veer towards the right or the left. You could reach the end of the road. And along these paths, you will encounter normal enemies, but also boss enemies. Then we have the Underworld. The Underworld locations refer to places where your character will travel while descending into the realm of demons. These locations correspond to a particular place within the Underworld, and similarly, the road table entries have a corresponding Underworld encounter reference. Although 5 out of the 6 are resolved in the demon table, a roll of 6 on a d6 will refer you to the boss table. So you could encounter straight tunnels, fork tunnels, elbow tunnels, chambers, and such. Now, the game is played and divided into 2 areas, Overland and Underworld. Each has its own mechanics and use dice to generate numbers. There are 3 main types of tables for terrain generation: road and landmark tables for the Overland section, and Underworld for the underground sections of the adventure, of course. Each also corresponds to a particular type of encounter. So when starting your adventure, you draw a torii gate at the bottom middle of the sheet. Then you roll a d6. On a result of 1, 2, 3, you add an Amulet of War plus 1 attack by 1 encounter to your Godai or Amulet table in the character sheet. On a result of 4 to 6, you add the Evil Eye to your player notes and lose 1 defense on your first combat encounter for 1 round. When it comes to Overland adventure and encounters, you roll 2 6-sided dice. You use the white die result to consult the road generation table. You draw the corresponding road type above the torii gate on the map sheet. On a result of 1 through 4, only on the colored die, reroll 1d6 and consult the table corresponding to road encounter, and then check out the corresponding enemy, animal, or boss tables. Repeat the road generation steps. After the second road generated, you will then generate a landmark. You alternate traveling overland from 2 road locations per 1 landmark location. Landmarks have special encounters listed across from each location, with specific instructions which must be resolved by your Ronin. When it comes to the Underworld, you enter this as an option, but only in the Underworld will you find the treacherous Lord Kira. But you must tread carefully, because 3 consecutive d6 rolls will forever curse you to remain in the Underworld. If you encounter a shrine, this will allow you to roll 1d6 on the Godai table. When it comes to towns, they are necessary but unpredictable places. There you can buy and sell equipment and regain health by purchasing bandages. Towns are also dangerous places where a Ronin can encounter enemies. You can also move through bridges, forests, and mountains. Maybe you will encounter animals, or perhaps bosses. Now, when it comes to the Underworld itself, you may enter this through an Underworld landmark generation. Entering the Underworld is optional as mentioned earlier, and not recommended early on in the adventure. The Underworld is both foreboding and unforgiving. It is a place where demons, monsters, and ghosts roam. A place where many courageous warriors have been forever lost. Underworld journeys are handled similarly to overland travel. You are rolling your dice and encountering all sorts of features and enemies. Rolling a result of 6 3 times in a row during any combination of cavern generation, attack, and/or defense rolls while inside the Underworld will result in you becoming part of the Underworld for eternity. Now let's talk about the way. These are encounters generated by certain road locations on the color die. That's a result of 1 to 4. On encounters that require a gift of rice or mon, and none is given, you subtract from the character's health. You will encounter characters along your path who will either help you or hinder you. So you may come upon Zen monks, wandering sages, peasants in distress, wounded Ronin, blind men, and such. During your adventures, you will encounter certain special objects, such as amulets. These items are looted from animals, which give your character special abilities, which can be used and only last for one encounter. They will grant you bonuses, so be careful when you use them, you can only use them once. They are quite valuable. You can also encounter Godai. These are special blessings bestowed upon righteous and courageous warriors. They symbolize the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, wind, and void. You also obtain bonuses to, for example, health or attack when you employ them. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about combat, adversaries, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this role-playing game. So the game is quite simple in its process or procedure when generating the adventure sites, the different paths and roads that you will take. Your journey will contain many surprises, some of them good, some of them bad. But all of them will be quite exciting. You never know what you're going to stumble into or come upon. Thank you for watching this part of the review, and thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.